Okay, great. We're live. So I'm at MAP Family Learning Center. Just rearranged our room because we're starting in-person classes again for those who can come in. We're in Malden, Massachusetts, 10 Dexter Street. We're right across from the BB School. We're near the Malden Center T station on the Orange Line. And if you want to come in and try a lesson, you can do so. And we're going to have some summer workshops. But today we're going to have a drum workshop, a rhythm and groove workshop with Karl Puglisi. And this is part of a series which is funded through the Malden Cultural Council, which is a part of the Massachusetts Cultural Council. Let me show my little thing because it's a lot of fun. A little program I made that shows that expresses our gratitude and does a little rhythm. Oh, it's still swinging.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was just
I was
say
gonna say you got some
prime
prime
accents in
accent
there.
in there.
Great.
Really.
So with no further ado, Karl, take it away. I think Karl's going to talk about some hemiolas and things like that. So take it to the next level. If you missed, parts 1, 2, and 3, you can always go back and watch those to fill in the blanks.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Some of this might be review. I don't think so, actually. I think we went into maybe some cursory level of this idea before. What we're going to focus on today, we could start with our 2/3 patterns, 3/2 patterns. Hemiola is a term usually used when a rhythm, like a certain rhythmic motif, which would be like an idea, is it usually overlaps the bar line. So we can get to a rhythmic example or musical example in a few minutes with a Jimi Hendrix song that most people are probably familiar with. But to start out, I think I would talk. I think I wanted to start off with basically introducing the 2/4 and 6/8 feel or time signature. So if you're looking at the bottom of this dry eraser board, if you're thinking 2/4 time, I'm just going to grab my marker here, and you're thinking there's 2 quarter notes in a 2/4 measure, and 4 eighth notes, because you could fit 2 eighth notes in one beat, so there'd be 1 and 2, and you could fit 4 eighth notes in that measure. If you had an example of quarter note triplets that would fit in the same time frame, evenly spaced as the 2 quarter notes, so this would be the way to write it. I forget if we had people clapping out both at the same time. I think we did in one of our classes, but we can get to that in a minute if you want to, if there's a volunteer. But so if I were counting the 2/4 time, I do have a metronome here. Let me just plug that in briefly and see if we can get that going. Good idea. Let's see here. So I could do this at 60 beats per minute here. I'm assuming everyone can hear that. So let's say that's the quarter note. 1 and 2 and 3 and 2/4 time. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. If we wanted to fit quarter note triplets in that same time frame, you'd basically be playing one note on the downbeat of 1. The next one would happen in between the and of 1 and the next downbeat. So it'd be I can clap the 3-note grouping while this metronome is going. So the metronome is at quarter note equals 60 beats per minute at 2/4 time. So again, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. I'm going to play 4 measures of just the quarter notes. If I just play these 2 beats 4 times in a row, and then I'm going to go to 4 measures with the quarter note triplets. Okay, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So 1 and 2 and 1, 2 and 1 and 2. This is the fourth measure, and now the quarter note triplets. You understand? So another way of, or a way to really break this down, I think, to make it easier for certain people, either listening or reading the music on paper, is I put a little arrow up here. So for whatever reason, I switched what was at the bottom to the top, and I wrote it out as eighth note triplets, which are easier, I think, in my opinion, to subdivide when you're hearing the quarter notes. So if you have the quarter notes here, the eighth note triplets, it's less of a challenge or a stretch, literally, because you have more there's reference points that are more frequent. So the meaning that you have this quarter note here and the quarter note, and you have 3 notes in between, instead of 3 notes stretched out, which are more of a challenge. So to subdivide these quarter note triplets, you can play the eighth note triplets in advance. Yeah, I guess you can play them instead of the quarter note triplets, and you'd notice that every other eighth note triplet is where the quarter note triplet would fall. Okay, so again, I'm going to play 2 measures. I can read just the top line here. 2 measures of the quarter notes for 2/4 time. All right, let's keep it consistent. Let's do 4 measures of that. 4 measures of quarter note triplets. Regular quarter notes. I'm sorry, and then 4 measures of eighth note triplets. And then I'm going to accent after those 4 measures where the quarter note triplets would fall within those eighth note triplets, if that makes sense. I'm going to play it, so it's going to be a total of 12 measures. Right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. If anyone has any questions or wants me to review any part of it, we could deal with that after that. So again, 4 measures of quarter notes, which is only 2 beats per measure, and then 4 measures of eighth note triplets going to 4 measures of quarter note triplets that are accented within the eighth note triplets. All right, let me just play it. It's probably more easy for me to display it. So 1, 2, ready, go. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2, 1 and 2 and 1 Tita, 2 Tita, 1 Tita, 2 Tita, 1 Tita, 2 Tita. Now accent the quarter note triplets. 1 Tita, 2 Tita, 1 Tita, 2 Tita, 1 Tita, 2 Tita, 1 Tita, 2 Tita. So, okay, so I'm going to do it one more time. This time I'm not going to accent the third segment. I'm just going to play the quarter note triplets. So this time, the third segment that was basically measure 9 through 12 that I just played, I did this. 1 Tita, 2 Tita. This time I'm just going to play 1 Tita, 2 Tita, but I'll still break it down the same way I did. So 4 measures of quarter notes, 4 measures of eighth note triplets, 4 measures of just quarter note triplets. Okay, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. 1 and 2 and eighth notes. Tita, 2 Tita, 1 Tita, 2 Tita, 1 Tita, 2 Tita, 1. And now just quarter note trips. 1 Tita, 2 Tita, 1 Tita, 2 Tita, 1 Tita. Okay, that's with the metronome, and you can use that at home with your own metronome app on your phone, or if you have a physical metronome device. Or you could challenge yourself, as we may have, like I said, in another class, where you actually have one hand play the quarter note, and the other hand maybe clapping on your lap the eighth note triplet. So I could do that together. It'd be if my right hand, which maybe you can't see, but I'm going to tap my right hand. You can see it going up and down there. Actually, I could play it on the drum. That might be easier, right? I do remember doing this before, but let's just review it. It doesn't hurt. So I'm going to play it on, you can see that drum there. All right, so I'm going to play with my right hand. I'm going to play the quarter notes. And then the left hand, I'm going to play eighth note triplets after 4 measures of just quarter notes, overlapping the quarter notes that I'm playing. And then I'll play, again, the third set, which would be measures 9 through 12, with the regular quarter note triplets. So 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 Tita. Tita, 2 Tita, Tita, 2 Tita, 1. 1 Tita, 2 Tita. Let me do that again because I messed up a little bit. So I'm going to play the other drum on the other hand, the other drum. I think it's easier to hear it. So 1 Tita, 2 Tita, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 with 8-note triplets. Tita, 2 Tita, 1 Tita, 2 Tita, 1 2 Tita, 1 Tita, 2 Tita, 1. Oh, I keep having to process it because I switched drums. Let me do that. I'm sorry. Let me start again one more time. I got to keep it my left hand on the other drum. I keep forgetting. So 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1. 8-note triplets overlapping. 1 Tita, 2 Tita, 1 2 Tita. And now quarter note triplets after this measure. Tita, 2 Tita, 1 Tita. Okay, so sometimes you might come across that in music.
Can I recap?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So let's, imagine you're at home. You don't need, first of all, it's nice to have the drumsticks, but you don't need them. And it seems like what you do first is you establish some kind of beat, and and we call that the quarter note. And that could be, nice slow tempo, just like 1 2 1 2, or clapping 1 2, and then we divide that by 3, right? So each one of those, we're going to put 3 inside of that. So, maybe, what I was doing with my chest or my clapping, I now do with my foot, and I'm like 1 2. So now I've got my foot going to keep that down, and then 1 2 3, or triplet, triplet. Right? So that's like the second step. And then I do every other one of those.
Yes.
You know, and so you could maybe do a right left thing to feel like right left, right left, right left. And then just like accent one of them. I'm kind of improvising where I do this. You could do it on the table, is fine. I thought that was just kind of easier to see maybe on the screen, but you could do that like on the table. If you've got some, sticks at home, you can do that. But that's how you go from, just like a simple beat to, divide by 3 and then do every other, which gets you that, quarter note triplet. But as long as you keep, that first one going, then you get this interesting rhythm. Correct?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's why I think working with the metronome is so it's a good strategy. If you're playing guitar, it's probably more difficult to do things simultaneously than it might be to play on a piano, which is more of a percussion instrument. So you can have the metronome going as a quarter note, and you can do, you don't need to coordinate one hand doing one thing and the other hand doing another. You could just play along with the quarter note. That's the metronome pulse that you have it at. Again, mine was 60 beats per minute. It could be 50 beats per minute if you want to slow it down a bit. And then you could strum a note that is, at first quarter notes and then 8-note triplets, and then every other 8-note triplet, which again equals the quarter note triplet we were discussing. Yeah. So with the piano, if let's say you're a piano player, you could do what I was doing with the drumsticks with your hands. You can just take, 2 fingers, play a C and a G or something like that on the keyboard. So that could help.
Yeah, on the guitar you can do it. You do maybe like the low strings and then the high strings. And actually, maybe some of our students might want to try something like that. Start with just a bass, as a quarter note, triplet, triplet. And then maybe play the high E string, and then triplet, 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 triplet. So that might be a possibility.
Great. Yeah. That's good. I think it's probably a little challenging with one hand, but again, I'm not fluent guitarist, so you would know better than me than to separate it out.
I think Harshini and Ananya, who are here, could do that. So
I wouldn't doubt it. If anyone wants to try before we go continue to get to more complicated material, feel free. And any of you want to give that a shot.
Harshini and Nanya, do you want to give it a try? We can help you through it as well. So feel free to dive in, and then we can work on the details.
And you can also do one aspect out of the 3 versions we discussed. If you feel more comfortable going quarter notes just to straight 8th note triplets, or 8th notes to quarter note triplets, one of the two out of 3, whatever works is fine.
Harshini, you were saying something?
Doing the half notes and the triplets at the same time. The quarter notes and the quarter note triplets at the same time, or
Yeah, so if you were gonna do that on the guitar, you'd want to start with the bass note as just the quarter notes, and then you see the one on the right where you have the triplets. So you would choose like another string, like the high E string or the B string, and then you could play triplet, triplet. So 3 times on the B string for every 1 time on the low E.
okay. I could try that. So. Like that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and then the tricky thing is, but is then you just do every other one. So I think Karl was recommending you do like a little bit of an accent. So dut 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 dut. So you still play it, but you play, the every other one a little quieter, and then listen to that, and then try to just take it away later.
Okay.
So
You can
try
go
with the accents first.
Okay. Just gonna play it normally first.
You've got a great start. Karl, can you remind us, like I always say triplet, but you had like a different way of saying it that I think if we say it out loud would help.
Yeah, it's up to you how you want to count it. I usually have said 1 T ta, 2 T ta, so we know what beat we're keeping track of, what beat it is. And I think the challenge he's having is he's playing the accent on the downbeat of 2, where he wants to play it on the next triplet after that. So 1 T ta, 2 T, hitting that T, or if you're counting 1 triplet, 2 trip, or whatever syllable you're using, it's the second syllable of beat 2 that you want to accent, which is that's what makes it kind of tricky.
Yeah, so Harshini, I might say, that 1 Tita, 2 Tita. So you do a couple rounds of just saying it. 1 Tita, 2 Tita, 1 Tita, 2 Tita, 1 Tita, 2 Tita.
Okay.
Like that.
Okay.
Can you try that first? Just saying it?
Saying it?
Yeah.
1 Tita, 1 Tita, 2 Tita, like that? Or
Yeah, accent that T.
1 Tita, 1 Tita, 1 Tita, 2 Tita, 1 Tita, 2 Tita, like that?
Yeah, see, if you're a little hesitant there, that can use a little more practice or repetition, but you got the idea. When you get more comfortable being able to say it, the playing gets, easier too. That's good. If you want to try maybe a couple more measures of just counting it, and then you can try playing it again.
Okay. 1 Tita, 2 Tita, 1 Tita, 2 Tita, 1 Tita, 2 Tita, like that.
Good. Can you do one more thing? Now do this exact same thing you just did, but this time clap all your accents. So 1 Tita, 2 Tita. You can just clap if your hands are available without your instrument falling or something, you know, or even tapping your body.
Okay. 1 Tita, 2 Tita, 1 Tita, Tita, 1 2.
Excellent.
Tita, like that.
Now, chances are when you try playing this again, it might be a little easier.
Okay.
There you go. Sounds like you got the feel down.
Yeah, I'm hearing, these magic moments where you're really in focus, and that's great. It does take practice to get to the point where you can do it without thinking. And
Yeah.
And the counting is excellent, like you did. That's why I encourage it so much, because there's so many benefits to doing the counting. You don't distract yourself from. You could focus more on the rhythm than the coordination of whatever your hands, fingers, vocal, whatever the instrument you're playing. You're taking away all the other distractions. You're really focusing on just the rhythm. And when you get that feel of rhythm happening more viscerally through the counting, through the clapping, then when you apply to your instrument, then you just add that other layer of coordination, and it's less of a task because you did it incrementally, so great. I think you guys understand that pretty well. And what I wanted to just also reiterate, like I've done in the past with the shuffle patterns, we're doing shuffle eighths and I think shuffle 16th note ideas, or it's the same idea. So let's say we have the quarter notes to quarter note triplets and these eighth note triplets to the quarter note triplet relationship. The same applies. Again, if I do this, it takes away the 2/4 time. It technically reduces it to 1/4 time, which you rarely, if ever, see in music. But if I made these eighth notes would apply to the eighth note triplet, same ratio, same relationship, and these would become 16th note triplets. So in some cases, you'll be dealing with eighth note triplets over straight eighth notes, or relative to straight eighth notes, maybe in a row instead of on top of each other like we're doing with the polyrhythm. But same idea. 1 and for the eighth note here, 1 and 1 Tita. I'm sorry. So 1 and 1. So the tricky thing is 1 Tita. Yeah. So that's really hard. It's hard to count 1/4 time, I'll tell you, because I'm so used to saying 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. So 1, and you can do 2. Let's say this is 2 measures. I'm sorry, 2 beats of eighth notes. So we play this one twice. I don't have to spend. I'm not gonna. It'll save time if I don't rewrite everything. So 1 and 2 and becomes 1 Tita, 2 Tita, and then the 16th note triplet would be like the way I've counted it: 1 1 and. So there's 3 notes, 3 16th notes per eighth note. 1 and 2 and. If I did that measure twice, you could technically, depending on the speed of your, the piece that you're playing, 1 Tita and Tita, but generally speaking, I think you want to think of 1 Tita as eighth note triplets. 16th notes would just be 3 evenly spaced notes within an eighth note of duration, half of a beat. So that's why you could fit 6 triplets, 16th notes into one full beat. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. And if you want, again, subdivide it: 1 Tita and Tita, 2 Tita and Tita, 3 Tita and Tita, 4 Tita and Tita, so forth. So that's, again, eighth notes to 16th notes, just like quarter notes to eighth notes, the same ratio. All right. And then same would be 16th notes to 32nd notes if you got more advanced with rhythms later on. All right. So unfortunately, I don't have another example other than the one I have written down at the top of this that is kind of a segue between the more basic eighth note triplets and straight eighth note or quarter notes. Did you want to say something, Devin? Okay.
Well, yeah, just one little thing. The one piece that I always think of. Actually, let me tune this up. This string keeps getting out of tune. But there's that. yeah, Carol of the Bells that has the
Yep.
the 2 against 3. So when I think of Hemiola, that's, it's good to have some power pieces, some pieces that just kind of exemplify whatever, you know, musical idea you're trying to get. And when I think
Yep.
Hemiola, that's one of the pieces that comes to mind. So, if you know Carol of the Bells, you like that, that can be one that, that you think of. I'm talking to you as in general, like anyone watching this, But you were going to come up with some other examples?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
before we
before
go
we
there,
go there,
that song, 1, 2, and 3. What time signature is that in when you read that off of a piece of music? Is it in 3/8, 6/8?
I think I usually have seen it in 6/8. I
Right.
kind of
Right.
just made my own transcription of it, so I don't remember even seeing it written out for a while. There is one section that is 3/4, so it kind of switches between.
Sure. I'm getting a notification that we did add them. Great, Jerry and Jaden. Yep. Okay, so yeah, I guess if you're thinking in 6/8, you're also playing like a more of a bass note that's on 1, 2, the and of 3. Is that right? 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6. Is that what's happening?
Well, there's 2 ways like you can do it on the guitar. I mean, it's a little bit laborious to kind of like play 2 C's at the same time. So I'm just playing a bass, like a dotted half note. So
Yep.
Yep.
and then then you get the dotted quarters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3,
I see.
4,
I see.
5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry, that's getting my brain mixed up.
I hear
I
you.
hear you.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
this
Well,
is
this is
slightly more advanced rhythmically, I would say. But and before we do this, maybe I should just reiterate. We're going to look at the top part of this dry eraser board now. So it's a little small, but hopefully you guys can see that pretty well. You have what I wrote down here. This is a song called Crosstown Traffic by Jimi Hendrix. I'm sure Devin's familiar with this one. A 16th note tied to an 8th, tied to a 16th note. Okay, so you have a 4th of a beat going to a half of a beat. The 8th note takes up the E. If you're counting 1 E and A, which is how we break up 16th notes, you have 1, and then E and is the 8th note, because it takes up the E, and then the and, which would be the space in between, and then the is the 16th note on the last 16th. The 16th note on the last 4th of the beat. 1 E and I'm clapping that rhythm there. So one more time. 1 E and 2 E and So now you have an 8th note on beat 2 tied to 2/16ths on the and the of 2. So if you're just dealing with these first 2 beats, 1 E and 2 E and you can hear that clap and everything. Okay. On beat 3, 16th rest. Again, it's like an 8th rest, but with an overlap of that curly whatever line there. And then that 16th note's on the E, and then the and isn't where the 8th note is. So you have 3 E and then that rhythm is the same as beat 1, 4 E and So what I noticed when I was transcribing this, because I always knew it was kind of like there's a lot of tension in this rhythm, and it kind of resolves at the end. I sensed this must be like an over the bar line type of feel, or I knew it was just from whatever studying I did. So let's see, the pattern that's repeating as a hemiola, which again is a rhythm that falls within, let's say, a certain time signature, like this is 4/4 time, but the rhythm overlaps. Like if you play let's see, 1 E and 2 and So think about this as you have 4 notes, 1 E and then 2. Okay, 1 E and 2. Within those 4 notes, it's really 6 16th notes. 1, 2, 3 is a rest on the and of 1, and then 4, 5, which would be beat 2, and then the E of 2. There's no note there either, if that makes sense. So let me say it again. 1, 2, 3, 4 is really 1 E and 2. Now, if I counted every 16th note as a number, it's really 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I'm counting the rest on the and of 1 and the E of 2 as the number of the 16th note grouping. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the same as 1 E and 2 E. Okay. I hope that makes sense. It's kind of complicated. Devin, is there anything you want to clear up on that based on what I said? Does that make sense to everybody?
No, I have the link ready to play if you want to show that at any time.
Yeah, the Jimi Hendrix link. Yeah, I would recommend if you could put it at 75 or 80% the tempo. I think it starts out.
Okay, I'll see what I can do. Do you want me to start it now? Or?
Let's just go through it. Go for it. Yeah. That was it at the beginning. So all we're really is that first 2 measures, I think, or maybe it's 4 measures. 1 E and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and 1 and 2 E and 3 E and 4 and. That's where it kind of ends and resolves. Do you want to, if you can, see if you could do that 75%. If not, no big deal.
Yeah, I can. I figured out how to do that.
Great.
One more time, this time at 75%. So that was at 50%.
No, that couldn't have been. That must have been.
The very first time was full speed, but then I rolled it back to 50%.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
So now it's going to be 75%.
It's coming through here as regular time, regular tempo, 100%.
Well, that's really weird, because it's coming through here as, but that doesn't, I don't know, but I can hear it. I hear the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yep. As long as everyone else hears the rhythm what we're talking about, again, this is happening. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. You know what I mean? That's really what's happening. It's 6-note grouping. So when I say 6-note grouping, I'm really saying 16th note grouping. Some of those 16th notes not being played. So this again, the and of 1 and the E of 2 is not played here. The downbeat of 3 and the of 3 is not played here, and the and is not played there. So again, it's a 16th note pattern or 16th figure pattern, whether it includes 16th notes or 16th rests, and it's a 4-note grouping that again starts. So the first one starts on 1, the second one starts on the and of 2, the third one starts on 4, which is again it's like a da 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and so on. I'm gonna basically, as I'm counting this, I'm clapping the first note only of every phrase beginning. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. What I'm going to do now is tap the rhythm out while I still accent what I just was clapping. So I'm going to clap with on my lap. You can hear that, I'm assuming, and hopefully you can hear this too. So 1 and I'll clap one time again, just the beginning note of every phrase, and then I'll play the rhythm in the background after I do it once through. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 E and I have to, let's see, 1 E and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and 1 and 2 E and 3 E and 4 and 1 E and 2 and 3 E. Oh, it's tricky to do. 1 E and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and 1 and 2 E and 3 E and 4 and 1 E and 2 and 2 3 E and 4 E and 1 and 2 E and 3 E and 4 and. Okay, it's kind of fast. I could have slowed it down a little bit better, but I think you guys get the idea of that, I hope. Does anyone have any questions on that rhythm? Or the whole idea of a hemiola?
Can you explain one more time how that is hemiola?
Yep. So I think I'm going to write it in a different way. Let me break down the actual 4-note grouping that I'm referring to. Or I'm sorry, the 16th note pattern. Let me erase the stuff we had at the bottom of this, which was the first segment of our class today. And I think a better way I could subdivide this would be, let's say every one of these lines is a 16th note. 5, 6. So let me center that a little better. One, E, and 2. Let me brainstorm for a second. 1 E and 2 E. And... Yeah. Okay. So 1 E and 2. I'm going to write down as if this is all 16th notes. It's 16th res. It's kind of drawn out here, but sorry, give me a second here. I don't know. Hopefully this is, I'm writing it upside down. It's all very spread out, but this is the rhythm. 1 E and 2 E is technically the whole phrase of that rhythm. Okay. Because it's 16 notes. I'm sorry, and because it's 6 16 notes long. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there's only 4 16 notes in a beat. The whole phrase is a beat and a half long. Okay, so if you're thinking of that phrase as a beat and a half, let's see. So it's the second phrase is going to have to start on the and of 2, and that and of that beat and a half would be from the and of 2 through the beat 3, and the third phrase would start on beat 4, overlapping to the first half of the beat 1 of the second measure. Does that make sense? And so the third phrase, the fourth phrase would start on the and of 1 through beat 2, and the last phrase is cut off because it's just beat 3 ending on the downbeat of 4, where it kind of resolves itself. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. However you want to group the ending.
I like what you just did. So it's like there's 2 lenses. With hemiolas, there's always 2 lenses you can look at the rhythm. There's in the duple meter, so some division of 2, 4, 8, 16. And then there's the tuple. In this case, a triple, kind of meter. So if I was just hearing it at the very beginning and I wasn't able to see what meter it is, what my brain started doing is going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Because I'm hearing a group of 3 of something. I don't know if it's a 16th note or an 8th note at that point, because I'm just listening. I'm not looking at the, I'm hearing 2, hits, and then I hear a rest. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And what he did is he grouped those 2 3s into a 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so it's that, but then you find out at the end of that second, measure, because when you're listening, that actually we're not in a triple, we're in a duple, and that's where, at the end he's like, 5, 6, 7, 8, or, because you're basically, whatever's left off, that's the rest. And then you land on the downbeat, and then you're in, I guess 4/4.
Right. So I was coming in the opposite direction in the sense of thinking of the measure first, whereas Mr. Devin's thinking of the rhythm first, which is probably the better way to do it if you're not knowledgeable about what time signature we're dealing with. So usually it's a 4/4 time signature, but so I'm kind of coming along. When I think of rhythmic transcriptions, I'm considering, okay, what time signature are we in first? But sometimes when you're just trying to figure out a song or a rhythm, you might be thinking, what's the rhythm first? So I don't know. For me, I prefer the measure first to think of my structure and the compartment that all those rhythms would fall within. But I'm not saying one way is better than the other. It might be better or easier for certain people to come up with what's the rhythm and then figure out later what time signature falls into. As a matter of fact, sometimes I think I might do that unconsciously and not consider what comes first. It just kind of happens simultaneously. But yes, that's probably a better way of describing it, what Mr. Devon said, where you think of that 3-note 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I was thinking in 6 because it's basically that rhythmic phrase is total 6 16th notes or 16th note figures, I should say. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. As I know we're dealing with 16 notes, but the actual rhythm itself, regardless of what type of note that it is, whether it's a 16th note or 8th note or quarter note, it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, or whatever. I don't know how many times I counted the 3, but it has to calibrate itself at the end for it to fall within that. You can only have so much tension. There has to be a release. So that's when that, if you're dealing with something that kind of grooves in a 4/4 is a driving, and that's why 4/4 is so popular, because it's just a steady, even amount of beats that just works with us, without getting into too much detail. It's another topic, but
does Jaden and Jerry, do you want to try clapping, maybe at least like the first, that rhythm that he's got written down there, the 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
Except you skip the last. You're supposed to skip the last one. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yes.
So if you're counting to 6, you skip 3.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Good. Take the 6 out. Or if it's easier, count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Yep. Great. If you really want to get down to the very basics, it's like a 3-note grouping that's twice. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I was thinking in 6, but it's actually when you really, what do you call it? The least common, the smallest amount of
smallest common denominator.
Yeah, it's really 3. Yeah.
Or the smallest common factor, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess
Ananya, do you want to try? Ananya hasn't participated yet.
Okay. 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Excellent.
Yeah, and then this is something that you can, if you wanted to make your own little little riff out of this, you can on your instrument. You could just, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Get fancy with it. Find some notes that you like. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. Anyone have any questions about anything that we covered? And if anyone has, as I may have mentioned last time, if you have any listening examples or pieces that you're working on, maybe we can address them during tomorrow's class too. But I think we did use a couple examples in our last class of lesson material that one of your students brought in where we covered something. And if we didn't, we can do that maybe tomorrow, or if there's new material anyone's thinking of, or if they have examples of any of the stuff we've covered so far that they're thinking might relate to what we did so far, we can maybe address those next class, which is tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe we could just do one more thing, maybe Jerry, try you know, find a note or two notes on the guitar and try doing that rhythm on the guitar. So, you know, if I was going to do it like on the B string, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, like that. Just so that you're applying it to something that you know. And of course, you know, you could do this, you know, with your voice as well, or, you know, if you've got a keyboard at home, find a nice, you know, Jimi Hendrix chord and play that. Jerry, you want to give it a try? I know I'm putting Jerry on the spot. If somebody else wants to go, you can go. I'm not even sure if Jerry's there.
What am I supposed to do?
So choose one note on the guitar. You know, and let's pretend there's just 3 beats. 1, 2, 3, and they're all even, right? And you're going to play that note on beats 1 and 2, and then you're going to skip 3, and then you're going to repeat it.
Okay.
So if I choose, you know, just the B string, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, like that.
Okay. Okay. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
That's good. That's a good start. Maybe, Karl, can you just like play it one more time, because there is a little nuance there that, you know, is important that we're missing kind of if we're thinking of it just in 3. You know, I think both perspectives are important, but it's like the meeting point of the 2 is nice, because there's some accents there that sound nice when you're thinking both 3 and 4, right?
Yeah, so are you talking about the entire phrase to where it resolves at the end?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, I'll do 2 versions. I'll do it twice through with just counting in 3s, and then I'll do twice through counting in 6s. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Let's see, how is that? Let me try that one more time, because I have to think of a 3, 1, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2. That's basically what you can go 1, 2, 3, 1. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2. I know how to end it is really up to you, as long as you know that it's no longer that triple feel. The thing about the 3, I just realized as I had to play it twice because I messed up the first time, is it's harder for me to keep track of the phrase when I'm counting such small motif, is what they call it, little phrase. Because there's twice as many 3s as there are 6s, it's easier for me to think of this and feel it in 6. But I understand when you're first figuring out the rhythm, it might be better to do it in 3. So let me do it in 6, and I'll probably have less of a challenge finding out where I'm at within the 3 groupings that are at the top there. Let me lower this a little bit, so because I'm looking at the top one when I do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's how I consider that phrase, that complete idea, which is where I put that bracket. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2. That's how the end. I'll do it again one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now, the way if you're counting this out as 16 note, with the syllables that we use to count and subdivide 16 notes, it would be again 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 and, okay, or 4 E and you're just hitting the last 2 notes as 4 and the and. When I count it that way, that's how I figure out how long this phrase, the total phrase is, this whole 2-measure phrase is. You have to eventually fit that into the time signature that we're dealing with, which is 4/4 time. So yeah, hopefully that helps.
No, I think that was this is a really great example 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4, right?
Yeah.
So at the end, you finally land on 4. Like it's like the 3s and the 4s they come into focus, and then you're back in 4. It's like, yeah, that's a great example. Thank you for bringing that to us.
And a lot of phrasing is tension and release. So you'll feel like this build up and like there's nowhere to land. And finally at the end, bang, you hit that downbeat. It's almost like, okay, there's there's kind of a release of the rhythm and that tension. That's what creates that, maybe the intrigue of a rhythm like that. It sounds, I'm sure it was like supposed to sound a little chaotic with the title of the song being Crosstown Traffic, about probably being in a, rush hour traffic and frustrated with traffic lights and whatever else. It's like, that's all a lot of you sometimes, especially driving in Boston, maybe.
It's like you're honking on your horn. Beep, 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 beep,
Yeah.
beep, 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 move, right?
Right.
And then finally the light turns green at the end, or whatever it is, where the person moves out of your way.
Great. So let's give Karl another big thank you. So
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's fun
he's
doing
gonna
it.
be
Sometimes
back-
Things I like.
if you do certain work with the rhythms like this over time, you kind of, when you have to explain it, you really realize how challenging it can be from a learner's perspective rather than from a teacher's perspective. So it's kind of good for me to, when I have to describe it, I realize how challenging it is to sometimes describe, which means, it helps me understand, I think, a little bit more what it's like to have, to be able to listen or hear this for the first time as a student, or maybe be less familiar at least, so it's good for me as well. I learn from teaching as well, as Devin could, I'm sure he can relate to that idea as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, something like this, I find that, I might have learned it and then kind of, I have some expert induced amnesia where I forget exactly how I learned it. And then going back and turning my brain on again to try to pick it apart is always a good exercise. But what I encourage every one of you here participating today to do is, to try that rhythm. You can come up with something, that you like. It's a really classic kind of, rock motif. But you can choose like any notes you want and just kind of experiment with it a little bit, as well as listening to that recording. But it is time for some lessons, so I gotta get ready for that.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yeah.
You can use that to your private instructor as well, but you can also experiment this week if you have extra time or over the summer, whenever you have a chance to do it, with just playing, playing around with quarter notes versus dotted quarter notes, and 2/4 and 6/8 time, which can relate to each other. Just like, how if you had 2/8 notes or 4/8 notes in 2/4 time, 1 and 2, and you can ask your teacher, how would I play these 2/8 notes or 4/8 notes, I'm sorry, the same rhythm if they were in 6/8 time. Then you're talking about something we didn't cover today, but it's called duplets, where you have actually 2 notes overlapping 3 versus 3 overlapping 2 or something, So for instance, if you have 2/4 time and you're packing it with 8 notes, which is the maximum amount would be 4, 1 and 2 and then you're thinking of 6/8, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The straight 8 notes that are in 2/4 might be 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6. So you can kind of learn how to interchange them with 2/4 and 6/8 measures interchanged. You can work on that with your teacher, and they can help you out with that rhythm.
Great. And then if you really want to take this farther, Karl is available for lessons too. So that's another avenue if you really want to, get some drumsticks in your hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or learn more
about
about music theory.
Great. So yeah, special thanks again to Karl, and we're gonna rendezvous same place here tomorrow, and maybe that's when we can do that. I see you have Smooth Criminal up there, so maybe that's what we do then.
we'll do more anticipations and delayed attacks and tied notes, dotted notes, or something like that tomorrow. Sounds good. Yeah.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to end the broadcast, and thanks everyone who's been watching, and thank you students for participating.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There we go.
All right.
All right.